One day, you'll wake up and realize you're no longer young. Not because your body suddenly changed, not because your hair turned gray overnight, but because time stopped asking for permission. It simply kept moving. Imagine standing in front of two doors. Behind the first door is the version of your life you dreamed about when you were 20. Behind the second is the life created by every small decision you made when nobody was watching. The terrifying part? You don't get to choose the door at 40. You choose it every single day in your 20s. Most people believe their 20s are meant for making mistakes. They say, "You're young. You have plenty of time." But what if that's the biggest lie your generation has ever been told? Because life doesn't punish you immediately. It waits. It lets your habits grow roots. It allows your excuses to become your identity. Then, one morning, it quietly hands you the bill. And by then, the cost is far greater than you imagined. I've spoken with entrepreneurs who built million-dollar companies, people who lost everything, parents who wished they had spent more time with family, professionals who climbed the ladder only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. Strangely, their biggest regrets weren't dramatic failures. They were tiny choices repeated thousands of times. The scary part: many of you are making those same choices right now without even realizing it. Today, we are counting down 20 mistakes that silently steal your future. Some will challenge what you've always believed. Others may feel uncomfortable. But if even one lesson changes the direction of your life, the next 20 minutes could become the most valuable investment you'll ever make. Let's begin. Mistake number 1. Living like time is infinite. When you're 20, 1 year feels like forever. At 40, 1 year disappears between birthdays. Here's something most people never realize. Life doesn't move at the same speed forever. Psychologists often describe time as feeling faster as we age because each year becomes a smaller fraction of the life we've already lived. What once felt endless begins to blur into seasons, then memories. Picture a young graduate. He tells himself he'll start learning about investing next year. He'll travel when work calms down. He'll build that business once he's ready. He keeps postponing life. Years later, he hasn't made one catastrophic mistake. He's simply delayed every meaningful decision. And somehow, that became the catastrophe. Time isn't stolen all at once. It's leaked. 5 minutes scrolling. 1 weekend wasted. Another year waiting. Think of your 20s like fertile soil. Whatever you plant grows. Skills grow. Confidence grows. Debt grows. Fear grows. Excuses grow too. The question isn't whether you're planting something. You already are. The only question is, what will be growing when you're 40? And that leads directly to the next mistake. Because many people don't just waste time. They waste it trying to impress people who won't even remember them. Mistake number 2. Buying a lifestyle instead of building one. Imagine borrowing tomorrow's freedom, just to look successful today. That's exactly what many people do. The first paycheck arrives. Then comes the expensive phone, the designer clothes, the financed car, the apartment that's just a little too expensive. None of these purchases seem dangerous on their own. But together, they quietly become chains. Here's the trap. The world celebrates visible wealth. It rarely notices invisible stability. Nobody applauds the person investing quietly every month. Nobody posts pictures of financial discipline. But decades later, one person owns their time. The other owns monthly payments. Think of money as soldiers. Every dollar can either work for you or leave your army forever. Most people send away every soldier they earn, then wonder why they have no one fighting for their future. Real wealth isn't looking rich. It's buying options. The option to leave a toxic job. The option to help your parents. The option to spend time with your children. Freedom almost always looks boring before it looks beautiful. And speaking of appearances, There's another invisible prison that's even harder to escape. One built entirely inside your mind. Mistake number 3. Letting other people's opinions write your story. Imagine living your entire life inside someone else's expectations. You study a subject because your relatives approve. You choose a career because it sounds impressive. You stay quiet because you're afraid of looking foolish. Slowly, your own voice becomes unfamiliar. Here's something fascinating. Most of the people whose opinions you're afraid of are too busy worrying about what everyone thinks of them. It's a prison with no guards. Only prisoners. Every extraordinary life begins with an uncomfortable moment. The first video. The first business. The first speech. The first failure. People may laugh. They may judge. But they almost never remember for as long as you imagine. Regret, however, remembers forever. One day you'll have to choose. Temporary embarrassment. Or permanent wondering. Because the greatest tragedy isn't failing. It's reaching 40. Still living a life someone else designed. But even if you escape other people's expectations, there's another enemy waiting. One that disguises itself as comfort. And it's far more dangerous. Mistake number 4. Choosing comfort over growth. Comfort is seductive. It doesn't arrive wearing the face of failure. It arrives looking like another episode. Another hour in bed. Another excuse. Another promise to start tomorrow. That's why it's so dangerous. Imagine 2 people graduating on the same day. One spends every evening learning a new skill, reading, networking, and taking small risks. The other tells himself he's earned a break. One day becomes 1 week. 1 week becomes 1 year. 5 years later, it looks like one person got lucky. But luck had very little to do with it. Growth is almost always uncomfortable before it becomes rewarding. Every meaningful change begins with resistance. The first workout hurts. The first sales call is awkward. The first video feels embarrassing. The first investment feels risky. But comfort has a hidden price. It keeps you exactly where you are. Your comfort zone is like a warm room with no windows. It feels safe. Until you realize you've stopped seeing the world outside. Ask yourself, what has comfort already cost you? Because the longer you stay there, the harder it becomes to leave. And that brings us to another silent thief. One that steals your future without making a sound. Mistake number 5. Spending more time consuming than creating. Imagine spending 5 hours every day watching other people build the life you dream about. That's exactly what millions do. They consume motivation. Instead of becoming motivated, they watch business videos. Instead of starting one, they admire successful people. Instead of becoming one. Information has never been more available. Yet action has never been more rare. Knowledge feels productive. But knowledge without execution is entertainment. Think about a library. It contains millions of books. But none of that knowledge changes your life. Unless you open one, read it, and apply it. The internet can be your greatest teacher. Or your biggest distraction. It all depends on whether you're creating more than you're consuming. Before opening another app, ask yourself one simple question. Will this move my life forward? Or simply help me escape it for a while? Because every hour spent building compounds. Every hour spent escaping disappears forever. And speaking of disappearing, there's something many people sacrifice without realizing its value. Mistake number 6. Neglecting your health while chasing success. When you're 20, your body forgives almost everything. Late nights, fast food, no sleep, no exercise. You mistake that forgiveness for invincibility. But your body keeps score. Quietly. Every unhealthy choice is like making tiny withdrawals from a bank account you assume will never run out. Then one day, the balance isn't what you expected. Energy isn't just about feeling good. It's the fuel behind every ambition. The strongest ideas mean nothing if your body can't support them. You don't rise to your goals. You rise to your energy. Protect your sleep. Move your body. Eat food that gives you life instead of taking it away. Because success is difficult enough. Don't make it harder by fighting your own health every single day. And while we are talking about investments, there's one investment that pays more than almost anything else. Yet most people ignore it. Mistake number 7. Refusing to invest in yourself. Many people will spend thousands on a car, but hesitate to spend a few $100s learning a skill. Think about that. The car loses value the moment you drive it home. Your knowledge can increase in value for the rest of your life. Skills are assets nobody can take away. A market crash can't erase your ability to solve problems. A recession can't delete your experience. Companies may disappear. Technology may change. But the person who keeps learning always finds another opportunity. Read books. Take courses. Learn communication. Master sales. Understand money. Study psychology. The greatest return on investment isn't found in the stock market. It's found in your own mind. Because every skill you gain today can create opportunities for decades. But even the smartest people make one final mistake that quietly limits everything else. Mistake number 8. Waiting until you feel ready. Here's a truth that took me years to understand. You will almost never feel ready. Not before starting a business. Not before changing careers. Not before asking someone out. Not before moving to a new city. Confidence isn't the ticket that lets you begin. It's the reward for beginning. Imagine learning to swim. Would reading books from the shore make you confident? Of course not. Confidence comes after entering the water. Life works exactly the same way. Every opportunity asks for courage first, and confidence later. If you keep waiting for certainty, you'll spend your life watching opportunities pass by. The people you admire weren't fearless. They simply decided that growth mattered more than comfort. Mistake number 9. Choosing friends who keep you small. Here's a question that can change your life. When you leave the people around you, do you feel inspired or exhausted? Your environment is always shaping you, even when you don't notice it. Imagine placing a piece of iron next to a magnet. Over time, it begins to change. People work the same way. Spend enough time around people who complain, and complaining starts to sound normal. Spend enough time around people who chase growth, and suddenly your excuses feel uncomfortable. The hardest truth? Not everyone is meant to stay in your life forever. Some friends belong to a chapter, not the entire story. That doesn't make them bad people. It simply means you're growing in different directions. Choose friends who celebrate your progress, who challenge your thinking, who tell you the truth instead of what you want to hear. Because your future often looks remarkably similar to the people you spend the most time with. And speaking of the future, there's another mistake that silently steals it. Mistake number 10. Ignoring the power of compound growth. Everyone wants dramatic success. Very few respect slow success. We celebrate overnight sensations, but we rarely see the 10 years that came before them. Think about planting a seed. 4 weeks. Nothing appears. Does that mean nothing is happening? Of course not. The roots are growing where no one can see. Life rewards consistency the same way. Read 10 pages a day. Exercise for 30 minutes. Save a small percentage of every paycheck. Practice one skill every evening. Each action feels insignificant. Until one day, you realize you've become someone completely different. Success isn't built in giant moments. It's built in ordinary days repeated with extraordinary consistency. Never underestimate small actions, because the life you admire is often the result of invisible habits. But habits alone aren't enough. There's another lesson most people don't learn until it's painfully late. Mistake number 11. Being afraid to fail. Failure has a terrible reputation. But success has a secret. It depends on failure. Every entrepreneur has failed. Every athlete has lost. Every artist has created work they were embarrassed to show. The difference isn't failure. It's interpretation. Some people see failure as proof they're not good enough. Others see it as proof they're getting closer. Imagine learning to ride a bicycle. Would falling once convince you that riding isn't for you? No. Because falling is part of learning. Life never promised a path without setbacks. It promised opportunities hidden inside them. The people who succeed aren't those who avoid failure. They're the ones who refuse to let failure become their identity. Remember this. Failure is an event, not a person. And while failure can teach you, there's something else that can quietly destroy your potential. Success without purpose. Mistake number 12. Chasing money without building meaning. Money matters. Anyone who tells you otherwise probably isn't struggling to pay bills. But money alone is a terrible destination. Imagine climbing a mountain for 20 years, only to realize you never wanted to be there. Many people wake up at 40 with impressive salaries and empty hearts because they built a career, but forgot to build a life. The goal isn't to choose between purpose and profit. The goal is to create both. Ask yourself, does the work you're doing teach you something valuable? Does it help someone? Does it move you toward the person you want to become? If the answer is no, don't panic. Just don't ignore it. Small course corrections today prevent massive regrets tomorrow. Because eventually, life asks a question no paycheck can answer. Did you truly live? And that question becomes even more important when you realize how limited your time really is. Mistake number 13. Taking the people you love for granted. One day, your parents will put you down for the last time. One day, your childhood home won't belong to your family anymore. One day, a friend you've always meant to call won't answer. Not because they're busy, but because life moved on. When you're young, you think relationships will always be there. You assume there will be another holiday, another birthday, another chance to say thank you. Sometimes there is. Sometimes there isn't. The greatest regret many people carry isn't something they bought. It's something they never said. I love you. I'm proud of you. I'm sorry. Thank you. Success means very little if there's no one meaningful to share it with. Protect your relationships. Call your parents. Make time for your friends. Be present with the people who matter. Because memories quietly become the most valuable currency you'll ever own. Mistake number 14. Waiting for the perfect moment. Perfection is one of the most convincing lies you'll ever believe. It whispers, wait until you know more. Wait until you have more money. Wait until you're more confident. But life doesn't reward perfect timing. It rewards courageous action. There will never be a perfect moment to launch your business, to write your first book, to ask the question you've been afraid to ask. Every meaningful journey begins while you're still uncertain. The people you admire didn't start because they felt ready. They started because they were tired of standing still. Remember this. Action creates clarity. Waiting creates doubt. And once you understand that, another truth becomes impossible to ignore. Mistake number 15. Comparing your beginning to someone else's middle. Social media has made comparison effortless. But comparison has always been expensive. You see someone's success. You don't see the years they spent failing. You see the finished building, never the thousands of bricks laid in silence. Life isn't a race against strangers. It's a commitment to becoming a little better than you were yesterday. Someone will always have more money, more followers, a bigger house, a faster career. If your happiness depends on beating everyone else, you'll never feel like you've won. Instead, compare yourself to the person you were a year ago. That's the only competition that truly matters. Because your greatest rival has never been another person. It's the version of you that's settling for less. Mistake number 16. saying yes to everything. Every yes is also a no. Say yes to distractions, and you're saying no to your goals. Say yes to people who drain your energy, and you're saying no to your peace. One of the biggest signs of maturity isn't learning how to do more. It's learning what deserves your time. Successful people aren't successful because they accept every opportunity. They're successful because they protect their priorities. Your attention is your most valuable currency. Spend it carefully, because once a day is gone, no amount of money can buy it back. Mistake number 17. Ignoring your character while building your career. Skills might open the first door. Character decides how long it stays open. Your reputation is built in moments no one applauds. Keeping your word. Showing up on time. Admitting you're wrong. Doing the right thing when nobody is watching. Talent may attract opportunities. Integrity keeps them. People eventually forget how impressive you sounded. They rarely forget how you made them feel. Build a name that people trust, because trust compounds faster than almost anything else. And unlike money, it can't be bought back once it's lost. Mistake number 18. Never learning to be alone. Many people fear silence, so they fill every empty moment with noise. Music, notifications, conversations, scrolling. But silence is where you meet yourself. If you can't enjoy your own company, you'll spend your life depending on distractions to avoid your own thoughts. Some of the greatest decisions you'll ever make won't happen in a crowded room. They'll happen during a quiet walk, a morning alone, a journal entry, or a moment when you finally ask yourself, what kind of life do I actually want? Solitude isn't loneliness. It's where clarity is born. Mistake number 19. Forgetting that life is happening right now. So many people postpone happiness. I'll enjoy life after I get promoted. After I buy a house. After I make more money. But life isn't waiting at the finish line. It's unfolding in the ordinary moments you're rushing through. The dinner with your family. The call from an old friend. The quiet sunrise before work. One day, the moments you barely noticed will become the ones you miss the most. Ambition is important, but don't sacrifice today for a tomorrow that isn't guaranteed. Build your future. Just don't forget to live your present. And finally, the lesson I wish someone had told me when I was 20. Mistake number 20. Becoming someone you don't respect. Imagine standing in front of a mirror on your 40th birthday. You have the house, the career, the money, maybe even the success everyone else admires. But when you look into your own eyes, you don't recognize the person staring back, because somewhere along the journey, you traded your values for convenience, your dreams for approval, your curiosity for comfort, your integrity for shortcuts. Here's what 40 years have taught me. Success isn't measured by what you own. It's measured by who you've become while earning it. Money can return. Opportunities can return. Even lost confidence can return. But the years you spend becoming someone you never wanted to be, those are much harder to recover. So protect your character. Protect your health. Protect your relationships. Protect your time. Because these aren't separate goals. Together, they become your life. If you're in your 20s, you don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to become extraordinary overnight. You simply need to stop making the ordinary mistakes that quietly steal extraordinary futures. Every decision you make today is introducing you to the person you'll meet 10 years from now. So choose wisely. Start before you feel ready. Learn before you're forced to. Love the people who matter. Take care of the body carrying your dreams. And never forget, your 20s aren't just another decade. They're the blueprint for the rest of your life.